This is the MiniFuse 2. I did a full review of it. It's a 2-in, 2-out audio interface with a couple of tricks up its sleeve by Arturia. And I'd like to introduce you to its bigger brother. This is the MiniFuse 4. This is part of Arturia's MiniFuse collection. There's the MiniFuse 1, 2, and 4. Now the MiniFuse 4 comes with a couple of extra features that the 2 doesn't have. Mainly 2 extra inputs. So we have the 2 on the front, which are combi jacks. And as you can see here, we've got different peak limiters for each individual output. That's a nice touch. We have 2 headphone ports with individual volume control, but the real magic is on the back, where we actually have our 2 inputs, 3 and 4. We have our 4 outputs, all jack. We have full port 5-pin DIN Midi, but the other one is USB hub, and it's really hard to find a USB hub on an audio interface. Now they did this with the MiniFuse 2, and they supplied you with 1 port there, but this one actually comes with 2. You've now got 2 USB-As. Both the MiniFuse 2 and 4 are actually powered through USB Type-C, and both of them come in this lovely white, and also you can get it in a black color as well. Now with the USB Type-C, there was one thing I said about the MiniFuse 2, which was this. They could do this in a black and a white. In the white, it would have been really nice if that was white as well, just to match. Now, did I influence them? Maybe, because now with the MiniFuse 4, you get a white cable. It's still USB-C to USB-A, but at least the cable matches the color of your audio interface. It looks pretty. It's also threaded as well, which is nice. But the big thing really is the USB hub. So you've got 2 USB hubs, and this is really important because if you've got a computer with 1 port, you can plug this in, and then you've got 2 USB-As to plug in things like a keyboard. And this is where our second product comes into, the Arturia MiniLab 3. This is their 3rd generation of the MiniLab, and it's the best version yet. This 25-key MIDI controller has improved functionality, deep synth integration, and even some controls for your DAW. So plugging into your device, the other thing as well is the MiniLab 3 does come with USB-C to USB-A cable. Again, it's white, but this time it's actually a right-angled cable, which is really lovely. So as you plug that in, it's actually just right-angled, and it means it gets out of the way for things like the control, and you've also got a dedicated MIDI out 5-pin DIN. But what we can do with this is we can plug the other end into either the MiniFuse 2 or 4, and the audio interface will supply power, and this thing will actually run. So why am I reviewing these 2 things together? Well, when you put these 2 together, this is your mobile studio right here. And the great thing is, you can use this with your computer, your PC, your Mac, but you can also use it for a tablet or even a mobile phone, and I'm going to show you how to do that today. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got everything we need to be a mobile studio. So we've got the iPad, we've got the MiniFuse 4, we've got the MiniLab 3, we've got some headphones and a microphone. Now, the great thing about the MiniFuse 4 is it can do 48 volts phantom power, just like the 2 can. So as I said to you earlier on, it actually comes with its own cable, as in a power cable. So we've plugged that in today. We've plugged the MiniLab 3 into the MiniFuse 4 using the USB cable and the USB hub. And then the output of the MiniFuse 4 is USB-C to USB-A. Now, this is your choice. It depends on which iPad you've got. If you've got one that's a new one, which is USB Type-C, then what you can do is you can just plug it straight in with a C to C cable. Or you can do what I've done, which is using their cable, the Arturia cable, which is USB-A, and you can get things like the BenFi little adapter. I'll put a link in the description box where you can pick that up. And then the alternative you can do is if you've got an older iPad, which is Lightning, you can use the Apple Camera Connection Kit, which will give you the USB-A, and then you can actually plug that in. Now, a slight downside is if you use it this way, you can't actually power the iPad at the same time, so you are reliant on the iPad battery. But if you were to use one with a multi-port adapter, of course, you could power it at the same time. We've got our headphones here, and they're plugged directly into the MiniFuse 4, and we're all set to go. We can record keyboards and vocals at the same time. So let me just bring up GarageBand and show you what I'm doing. So with GarageBand, I've just set up something really nice and basic, and you can see here there's actually 2 record LED signs, and the way you do that is go into settings, go into advanced settings and turn on multi-track recording. So we've got a microphone, and I've turned on 48 volts phantom power, so you can just see that there. And as I talk into the microphone, you can see the indicator is going through. So if I keep going up, you'll see that's too hot now. And you can see it's also too hot in GarageBand. So we'll turn that back down. I'm only talking, I'm not even singing yet. I've got my headphones for monitoring, and of course we can plug the Arturia into a pair of monitors, no problem. In fact, you've got 4 outputs, so you can plug it into different monitors, or you could plug that into somewhere else like an amp. If you're plugging a guitar in, you want it to go to a very specific thing. The keyboard is MIDI, so the keyboard is just sitting here ready to go, giving us a nice little light display. So let's put some headphones on, and then all I need to do with this one is make sure the monitoring is on. Now I can hear it. This is a 60s vocal flange. 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. And then with the keyboard, we've got this keyboard, which is Autumn Haze. And with the MIDI going through to the Arturia and into the iPad, it's incredibly responsive. I can hear it back. It's looping back for me. And as I talk here, we've now got the monitoring on. I can actually see left one and right coming out. 1, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. Because now the audio interface is controlling the output as opposed to the iPad. So you'll notice on the iPad, the volume control is actually muted out. I can't change it. And that's because it's being controlled by that. So let's record something. I've got the metronome on. Let's record something at the same time. What you gonna do this time with me? What you gonna do when I send you far away? Now you'll notice there I made a couple of mistakes on the keyboard, but it's MIDI. I can go into the MIDI, I can adjust it and change it however I want. When I played these notes, you actually played the bass notes using the pads. That's a really nice thing if you've got a 25 note and you want to get a bit further down with the keyboard, you could put the bass notes here. So you've actually got an extra octave at the bottom. And the next thing I've got is I've actually got a set of drums, and I've actually just brought the drums up in GarageBand. And the great thing is the pads here turn into drum pads. So straight away, now I can do it with the keyboard as you normally would, but it's actually nicer with pads. So let's just get something down. So the great thing, of course, with any digital audio workstation, if you've recorded MIDI, you could obviously go into it, go into settings of some kind, and you can set the quantization. So when you play it back, even if you're a little bit out, it's gonna squeeze it across. Now, the other thing the Arturia can do is it's got a built-in arpeggiator. So in order to do that, you need to hold Shift down and then press ARP. Now, if you do that, it turns it on. If you hold it for long enough, it'll actually change these 8 controllers for the arpeggiator. So you can change things like the sync, the swing, the gate, the rate. So let's just pick a normal piano. And you can hear that there. So what we can do is we can actually change the mode. Now the arpeggiator is completely separate from GarageBand, so you do have to tell it what the BPM is, but that's fine. So the BPM for this is 110 beats per minute. Now the arpeggiator also works with the velocity of the keyboard. So if I was to press one note really, really softly and one note really, really hard, you'll get a difference. One thing I really like is this little display. So depending on what you're doing, if I start moving this up and down, you can see the mod wheel is turning. There's no mod on the piano here, but and if you were to actually touch the pads, you can see straight away the actual number, which is the velocity. Now I'm only using one microphone, which is plugged in via 48 volts. This is a 4-in, 4-out audio interface. So of course, if you need to plug in things like synthesizers, another microphone, a guitar, whatever you're using, this will handle it. If you want to be totally portable, then what you can do, of course, is you could use this independently, and then you unplug this into the iPad and plug the MiniLab 3 into the iPad, and therefore it will power it up. You won't need to use any external power supply. So that way you could be totally portable with this. It would be nice if the power delivery from the Arturia actually feeds through to the iPad. I hope they can do that with a firmware update. Now, one other thing as well is these controllers are mapped to certain things on digital audio workstations on a computer. If you're using something like an iPad, like Digital D1, for example, if I was to play this right now and then start turning this, there's nothing, it's not connected to anything. So all we need to do is pretty much on every app, you can do MIDI learn. So there's MIDI learn right here. You tell it which one you want, and I want that one, and then instantly you can see it's learnt it straight away. If I go to that one and then we turn this one, that one, and then this one, that one, and then this one. And as you can see, you can choose. It's really, really simple. You can still do that with the faders as well. So if I click this one and then do that, you can see the faders work straight away. And that saves it. And that saves it on the app, not the MiniLab 3. But you can have preferences on the MiniLab 3 if you use their software, which is the Arturia MIDI controller. This is just telling the CC number which one is which, and therefore you can start using it. So now, as we use it, I can start playing with it however I want to. But the great thing is this can actually go directly into the iPad, or it can go through an audio interface, so you can plug external things in as well and have 2 headphone support. So if you're doing a duo, for example, you can plug everything in, set a multi-track recording up, and away you go. So the question is, how much for all this tech? Well, that's where this gets really interesting, because with the MiniFuse 4, it comes in at around about £190. But I've seen it cheaper than that if you have a look around. Of course, if you can get it on a Black Friday deal, or if you're watching this in January and you're looking at January sales, it might come in a bit cheaper. And the MiniLab 3 actually retails at £109. And for the money, what you're getting is an amazing piece of kit with a really good keyboard bed and some really unique features. So just for under £300, these two, you can actually have a complete studio. This is a really great way to get you started, or maybe this is all you need. Maybe it's too much. This MiniFuse 4 has 4 ins. If you only need 2 ins, then you've got the MiniFuse 2. And in certain places, I've seen the MiniFuse 2 come in at just around about £110. So with that combination with the MiniFuse 2 and the MiniLab 3, just over £200, and you're actually getting yourself a great setup. Now, whether you're picking any of the MiniFuses up or the MiniLab 3, I've now got a brand new link which is called Throne. And this is where all the stuff I've reviewed is in one page. So instead of having to click into one link, come out and go back into another, you can just go into this one link. It shows you all the things I've ever reviewed, and you can go and find the best prices to go and pick something up. So if you are looking to go and get one of them, have a look at the Throne link. It's in the description box below. And that is an affiliated link, and it does help out the channel, but no extra cost to you. In fact, you might even find yourself a deal. The USB-A to USB-C adapter is also there in that link as well. Now these two, the MiniFuse 2 and the MiniFuse 4, are fantastic pieces of kit, and I did a review on the MiniFuse 2 a little bit earlier in the year, as I said at the beginning of the video, so if you do want to see that, that video is here.